Hello and welcome to Auto Shenanigans. How the devil are you? Have you had a good week? My name is John. Thank you very much for joining me for another exciting Great British road journey. This week I've come to Shropshire, a county famous for some hills, not that you can see them, and it's considered the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution, just a small thing that changed the world forever. Yet despite this, Shropshire doesn't have any cities, but it doesn't matter because there's still plenty to keep us occupied. So today we'll be exploring the county on a journey that'll take us from Ludlow to Telford. As always, to help navigate our way around, we'll be using my 1923 Michelin guidebook, period correct maps and, oh look, castle. Yes, we begin in Ludlow. In the days of my guidebook, a small town with around 5,600 residents, and the top attraction that it lists is Ludlow Castle. Constructed in the year 1066, it's apparently one of the first stone castles to be built in England, and it seems that they didn't stop building. In the centuries that followed, more and more additions were made to the castle. For example, the Great Tower was constructed in the mid-1100s, and the Great Chamber Block was added in the 1300s. Everything was great back then, wasn't it? Until it wasn't. By the 1700s, the castle was in a state of ruin, and while some efforts were made to save it, it didn't really work. Another famous landmark, as recommended by my guidebook, is the Feathers Hotel, a historic inn-turned-hotel that was constructed in the 1600s. And as you can see, its frontage is quite spectacular, and indeed the reason for our visit. It's a Grade 2 listed structure, one of 500 in Ludlow, and the name comes from the Prince of Wales' feathers, an emblem, I suppose, to the Prince of Wales, which interestingly you'll find on a 2p coin. We're not hanging about this week, there's lots to do, so onwards we go, and we'll be taking the B4364 to our next destination, which, compared to our old maps, is the same. As you make your way along, keep an eye out on your left because you might spot a really good opportunity to get high. At Brownclea Hill, the highest point in Shropshire, towering above the land at 1,770 feet above sea level. That's not really that much, is it? But despite that, I can't be asked to walk all the way up there, so here's the hill. Do with this information as you wish. In the shadows of Brownclea Hill is a small village known as Ditton Priors. It doesn't get a mention in my guidebook, and even if it did, there's a strong chance they'd have skipped over what I've come to look at. Hiding in plain sight is a huge naval armament depot that was constructed in 1941, comprising of 25 magazines and 4 mine stores, and it was one of several sites that were constructed around the country to supply ammunition and such like. The depot was served by a light railway, but interestingly, the light railway was built long before the depot's construction and carried passengers from Cleobury-Mortimer up to Ditton Priors with several stops along the way. The line opened in 1908, operating for 30 years, and it would have closed forever at that point, but the light railway was seen as a massive plus point when it came to constructing the depot, and indeed the Navy or the Ministry of Defence or whoever it was took over the railway for their own use. I feel we got distracted there a bit. We're still nowhere near Bridgnorth, our next destination, so let's get on and we'll continue along the B4364. Nothing to see here but some lovely countryside. It's fair to say Shropshire is quite nice to look at, but what about Bridgnorth? Yeah, it's all right. Today a reasonable sized town of around 12,000 people, and the town is split into 2 parts by the River Severn, known as High Town and Low Town. It's quite a steep climb to get from Low Town to High Town, but fortunately Bridgnorth have a unique solution to this problem that was installed in the 1890s. The Bridgnorth Funicular Railway allows for quick and easy transportation between Low Town and High Town, and its railway is one of the steepest in the country with a 64% gradient. In the early days, it was powered by water. Each of the rail cars had huge water storage tanks, and you'd fill the car at the top of the railway with water to the point where it was just ever so slightly more heavy than the one at the bottom, and gravity would do the rest. You would then empty the car when it arrives at the bottom of the railway and repeat the process. And it sounds like a fantastic idea for use today, a water-powered railway, until you realise that each water filling required over 9,000 litres of water. And sure, it could of course be recycled, but the systems and pumping mechanisms required would have been excessive, involving lots of maintenance. It's a fascinating little place and thing. Even the rail cars are interesting to look at, but I think what I like the most is that it was set up in 1891 and it's still going today in 2025, operated by descendants of the original company founders, so surely that makes it one of the longest operating family businesses in Shropshire. Good work. Next we're going in search of what my guidebook calls the Hermitage and Caves, which brings me to a field on the east side of Bridgnorth. But what is this Hermitage? I'm fairly sure it's up here. I don't know why I do this to myself. This is a pain in the arse. It better be good. Hello, sheep. Well, good news, I found what we're looking for, and it's not at the top of that massive hill. That was a complete waste of time, but here we are. This is the Hermitage, and today it's a scheduled monument, being a rare example, and it would have been constructed in the medieval times by people seeking a simplified and solitary life. At the time, Christian monasteries would have ruled most of the land, and whilst the people that built this structure were more than likely devout Christians, the community-led way of life wouldn't have sat so well with them, so they created places like this, known as a hermitage, and the people that lived here were known as hermits. It's estimated that there are around 500 of these sites across the country, but very few have ever been correctly identified and located. From the Hermitage, we can conveniently jump onto the A442, the first A road of the day, although it's not that exciting really. The road is mostly the same as it was in the old days, and it will take us into Telford, where we find an unexpected UNESCO World Heritage Site. This is the Ironbridge Gorge. There is a gorge, there is an iron bridge, and it's across this 550-hectare area where the Industrial Revolution began. Perhaps a bit earlier than I thought, in the early 1700s, but in any case, the stuff that made Great Britain great and in turn the rest of the world all started here. In this mineral-rich valley are all of the ingredients required to make stuff, and the early 1700s saw the installation of the Coalbrookdale blast furnaces, where the technique of smelting iron with coke was developed, changing the way we construct things forever. If you follow the River Severn along for a short distance, you'll find Bedlam furnaces, a surviving example of that early industrial time, built in 1757. It would have produced things like rails for railways, iron for construction, and machinery that would build the country. But what does my guidebook make of Telford? Nothing, because Telford didn't exist in the days of my guidebook. Oh well, let's get back to the Ironbridge Gorge, and contained within is the Blists Hill Victorian Town, a living museum that offers visitors an insight as to what Victorian lifestyle might have been like during the Industrial Revolution. Take a look at this. Seriously. Now this looks like my kind of museum exhibit. Maybe. Yeah, probably won't try and get on that. Ah, I'm a building. Oh my goodness. What are you doing here, Mum? Well, I don't know about you, but I'm having an absolutely wonderful day out. What a fantastic place this is. The best way to look at it is that the Ironbridge Gorge is effectively several museums spread across the area, and if you go online, you can get a ticket that'll get you entry into all of the different places. It's certainly not the cheapest day out, but if you're anything like me, you're going to absolutely love it. I would thoroughly recommend it. Well done, Telford, Ironbridge and Shropshire. You have achieved. With that in mind, and since we're in the area, I thought we'd come and take a proper look at the Ironbridge, which is found in the town of Ironbridge, and indeed is recommended by my guidebook because, unlike Telford, back in the old days, Ironbridge existed as a town, as did the Iron Bridge. Built in 1779, it was the world's first bridge to be constructed out of cast iron, and of course all of the materials to build it were sourced within the Ironbridge Gorge area. In the days of my guidebook, we may have been able to drive over it in the car, but in 1934 it became a scheduled monument and was closed to all motorised traffic. And there we are then, guys. That's all we've got time for this week. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you did, there is of course a button specifically for that, and if you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. That'll be wicked sweet awesome. Enjoy the rest of your week, whatever it is you get up to. My name's John. You've been watching Auto Shenanigans, and I'll see you guys next time for another exciting Great British Road Journey. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.